Nathan, tell us about your business and how it makes money.
I buy residential mortgages all over the US, and I buy them at somewhat of a discount than whatever the base rate is. Because I get that discount, it adds to my return. That's a very broad beginning, but that's how that goes.
So you're buying residential mortgages on discount. Is this only for houses, or is this also for like vacant land or any other class?
So far, I haven't bought anything on vacant land. That is something I'm looking at doing. But so far, I buy first lien mortgages on residential property.
First lien. And why is it being first lien important?
It's important to me, and it's not important to everybody. There's lots of strategies out there, but I like that first lien because I like to be the first one that's going to get paid. So in case there's any kind of questions about, this didn't get paid, that didn't get paid, I'm the one that comes first.
I see. And what is the use case? So why are they trying to offload their mortgages?
So it's an interesting case because I'm dealing with the lenders. And that's something that people get confused about sometimes is I'm not dealing with the borrowers in terms of when it comes to buying that loan, that they're not part of the equation. I'm talking to whoever the lender is at that point. And bottom line, the lender is looking for liquidity. They're looking for a lump sum of cash today instead of those payments over time. I'm just looking for the opposite. I would like those payments over time.
So these lenders are we talking about institutional lenders, or are we talking about like private lenders, like say myself?
I've done both. More recently, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, it's been almost exclusively private lenders. Before that, it was almost exclusively, I would call them institutional lenders, banks or other large institutions.
And why did you do the switch?
More the approach that I'm looking at. So today I'm looking at performing loans, and that means people are making regular on-time payments with their loans. I made that switch in around 2020, 2021. Before that, I was only buying non-performing loans. And those were loans where people were not making any payments at all.
Right. So what makes it non-performing? Is it like, no payment made for X amount of months? Like what's the threshold?
Yeah, the threshold is 3 consecutive non-payment, and then that becomes non-performing.
Okay. So 3 consecutive. And I'm guessing all of these payments are monthly, right?
Correct.
Okay. So 3 consecutive non-payments makes it non-performing. So you're saying you switched from a non-performing strategy to a performing strategy. And why is that?
There's a few reasons. Number one, availability. I got started in 2009, 2010. And at that time, if you think back, a lot was going on. And so it's a lot of people were just not making payments on their loan. So there's a ton of availability. As that more or less corrected itself, the availability of these non-performers just became less and less. So that was a major part of it. Part of it also is I'm starting to look forward. My kids are almost all out of the house. I've got 2 more years with my youngest. Once he's gone, then it's my wife and I, and I'm looking towards, a quote unquote retirement where I'm not having to do as much work. I can go and travel. I can go and do different things and be a little bit more detached from my office.
Oh, I see. So if it's non-performing, that means you have to initiate the foreclosure and take back the property. Is that the reason?
Yeah. And it's really interesting. I love non-performing, and I'm still a really big fan, but it's far more labor intensive. And whether it's starting a foreclosure or dealing with the borrowers to try to get them back on track with a new payment plan, or it can be going one direction and all of a sudden switch where they were making payments. You got them on some kind of payment plan, and they stopped again. Now you got to go deal with it again. You can talk about deed in lieu of foreclosure. So instead of foreclosing, you pay them off to be able to leave. So there's just a lot more that goes on with that strategy, which I like a lot, but it's just a lot busier.
But you make more money that way as well, right?
Absolutely, you do. Yes.
Okay. Did you have any successful stories where you were successfully able to complete the foreclosure and get the property back in your name and then resell it for a profit?
Oh, yeah. I did hundreds of those. So I'll give you one of my favorites. So the interesting thing with the non-performing is I would say 99% of the time, I'm not after the property. And that's something I learned fairly early on, is that owning the property and dealing with the property is a lot more work. Because then now I've got to just at the very least, now I'm talking about paying property taxes, property upkeep, all the things that go along with owning a house. So that's far more work taking back that property. I would much rather get that person making payments again and just start collecting that income. I can hang on to it at that point. I can sell that note off to somebody else and cash out that way. So again, I've got lots of options, but that's bottom line is what I'm trying to say is more often than not, I'm not after the property at all. So one of my favorites is one that I bought. This was years ago, but it's one of my favorites because it was just worked out so well. A gentleman was there. He was not making payments. We had a couple of conversations early on. He was able to start making payments again. I think we modified his terms a little bit to help him make it more affordable. And he started making payments. He's making payments for 3, 4, 5 months. And I went back and I looked at his information, and I as part of the process, I had pulled his credit report. And despite not making payments, he actually had really good credit history and a really good credit score. So I approached him and I said, look, I think with me, he was paying something like a 9.5, 10% interest rate. And at the time, the banks were offering around 4 or 5%. And so I showed him an amortization chart with me at 9 or 10%, whatever it was, and at 4 or 5%, whatever the bank was offering, and just showed him the difference and how much money he could be saving if he did that. And the reason I want to do that is because the earlier I get paid, the more money I'm going to make overall. So it's very much worth it to me to have him go back and refinance and cash me out. And so he can have a cheaper payment, be in the mortgage for a shorter time, however he works that out. And then I get paid out in full, whatever I'm owed that day. And remember, I bought it at a discount. So that's a great advantage to me. So long story short, we did that. There was a situation where the bank was going to do the refi, but he needed a new furnace. I was able to help fund the purchase of the furnace, wrap it into the total purchase price, and I was able to get paid back in full, and win-win-win all the way around. And he's got a new furnace to boot.
Right. Well, it is slightly contradictory to me because I thought you were optimizing for cash flow, but in this example, you said that you're trying to get cash back faster.
Yeah, it really, in the grand scheme of things, the sooner I get paid, the more money I make. So as much as I'm looking for that long-term payment stream, if there's a situation that I can identify like that one where he's got a good credit score and he can cash me out early, I can then go and take that bump that I made on that, go turn it over into another note and keep the cycle going.
Okay. So you are optimizing for more of a lifestyle / passive income business model where you don't want to work too much and just work enough so that the passive income keeps coming every month, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So let's transition to your business goals. Tell me, what is a 3-year or 5-year business goal you have set for yourself?
That's a great question. So business goal, we are looking, my wife and I, when I say we are looking towards the future. My son will be out of the house in 2 years, and then we'll be empty nested. So we're looking at kind of the ultimate lifestyle at that point. And to me, that means not needing any investors. So I totally self-funded. All the notes that I own are my own. And then I could, ride off into the sunset. We want to go and do some different missionary work. We would love to be able to just be free to travel, to lend money out to people who need it. All kinds of different things that we'd like to do at that point. So that's the end goal. In order to get there, we're looking at buying somewhere between 20 or 25 notes personally that are going to provide our target income.
Are you optimizing for MRR, monthly recurring revenue, or are you optimizing for like an yearly revenue?
Monthly. Great question.
And what is that number?
We're looking for 15,000 a month.
15,000. Okay.
Yeah.
And how far are you from that goal right now?
We are about 13,000 off.
Oh,
personally.
This is on your personal note for portfolio, yeah. not your overall business.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. And so right now I'm guessing, so you're raising capital from external funders, and then you buy these notes, and then you're offering them a certain percentage, and you're keeping the diff, right? So that's the business model.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And the goal is to just pay off all the investors, so it's all your personal portfolio that you don't have to talk to any investors.
Yeah, exactly. And so replacing what we're doing with investors so that it's all personally coming in.
Okay. Now, why is that? Is that because you don't like dealing with the investors,
Oh, great
or is
question.
it, like they're like some shady investors that you got burned and you're like, all right, I don't want to deal with them anymore? What happened?
Um, no, it's more just for the flexibility. It's just more for being able to be free to do whatever I want whenever I want. So to give an example, um, I live in Calgary, Alberta now. Before this, we lived in Montreal. When we were there, we had an older, re- semi-retired couple who had come out, and they were doing the same kind of thing that my wife and I are looking at doing with some missionary work. And in speaking with them, one day she mentioned that her husband was mostly retired, and that he was, I think he said Tuesday mornings he had calls like up until noon, that he would set aside, and he would work on his business during that time. The rest of the time, they were free to do whatever they wanted, and they were able to do all kinds of help and really great things. So to me, that sounds like the ultimate. When I have investors involved, it frankly just takes more work. It Depending on the person, there's going to be more handholding and other people less. If I don't have anybody that I need to be reporting back to, then that's just the ultimate freedom to me.
Hmm. Tell me about, like, if someone is watching this, they're in their head, they're thinking, all right, what are the kind of potential, headaches and work required to maintain those investor relationships that you're trying to avoid?
Yeah, great question. So, and again, I don't mean to make it sound like it's my a thorn in my side or anything like that. It's just, again, it's just freeing me up so that I don't have to be accountable to anybody else. So, um, currently, I have phone calls with several of my investors on a regular basis, and regular for some means every week. Regular for others can mean every month, but it depending on what their preference is and how much they want to be in contact. And again, I don't have any problem with that, but it does mean that I'm tied to my chair and I have to be tied to my phone for at least half an hour for that regular phone call whenever we're catching up.
Hmm. Okay. It's just the maintenance work. It adds up when as you
Yep,
get more and more investors.
exactly.
Um, are these, like, you're doing individual joint ventures with these investors, or do you use like some kind of a fund structure? How is that working?
So I have notes is the major part of my business. I have some other side things. So I major part of the business is the fund, and then that generally is a monthly newsletter or a quarterly newsletter that we send out, and just this is the report. This is what we've been doing. These are the notes we purchased. That kind of general information. The ones that actually take a little more work are those JV partners, and that's on side projects that we're doing together, some fix and flip stuff. And granted, those take more work just in general, and so that takes a little more time.
Also, you're saying the JV side takes more time because these are individual contracts that you sign with them.
Right.
But then the fund side, you just do like a monthly newsletter. Is that what you said?
Yeah. And then same thing. Like if they ever have any questions or anything, I'm more than happy to get on the phone call. But it just
Right.
means that I have to
Right.
be available for that.
Yeah. Tell me about the fund structure, because I was talking to someone yesterday,
Mhm.
and they were talking about, like, obviously, like the different types, there are different commitments, and different compliance rules attached to each fund. You have
Yeah.
to register it with the SEC.
Yes.
Tell me what kind of fund do you have, and how much of a compliance commitment and costs
Yeah.
that are involved with them?
Yeah. Sure. So ours is Regulation D 506C. And
Hmm.
so what that means is, yes, we're registered with the SEC. The 506C means that we can advertise and we can be as free as we want in spreading the information about what we're doing, but we can only take on accredited investors.
Hmm.
That's the limitation.
And what are the compliance requirements? Like, are you paying, like, how often do you have to pay lawyers to make sure you're compliant with the SEC and stuff like that? Fees or
Uh,
anything?
it's part of my setup package, actually. So I have the attorneys that I hired originally. They are on an ongoing basis. It's an annual type of reporting, and they take care of that for me. So it's not that big of a deal for me.
Okay, because I heard like some of these funds can be like, you're paying like $5,000 pretty much every month or every quarter. Is that not the case?
Not for me, no.
Okay.
I'm not sure what they've set up, but no, that's not been my experience.
Okay, so it's more of a one, like how much was the like one-time cost? Like what can people expect to pay?
It depends on who you go to, but for myself, the attorneys that I hired, called crowdfunding lawyers, I'd give them more than enough props. I love those guys. They do it based on how much you're raising. So it's like tiered that way, their pricing. So originally we were doing a $5 million raise. So the cost for that fund setup was 15,000.
Oh, okay,
Um,
that's
so
reasonable.
very inexpensive compared to some of the other attorneys I talked to, and they were extremely vague, and that's part of what turned me off of them. And they're saying, well, somewhere between 30 and 50,000. Like, well, that's a big difference. So which is it? And they weren't willing to nail it down on price or on time. And so
Mm,
when I talked to these guys, and I should have talked to them first, they're friends of mine, but they came back and
yeah.
said, no, 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 no. And they were extremely quick. We had it all set up in a month.
Mm,
Oftentimes they were waiting for me. They were ready to go on to the next step and just waiting for me to make decisions or get them paperwork or whatever.
yeah. And what are the annual maintenance costs involved?
I think annually, I believe we pay $6,000.
Okay. All right. So it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I was talking to this investor and he's about to come to the show, like I think in a month or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has like this now he's pretty big now. So he has a team of this in-house lawyers.
Yeah.
So he charges $25,000 one-time setup fee, and then after that you don't have to pay anything.
Oh, that's pretty
So
good.
I would like I'm looking forward to that interview because I'm gonna
Yeah.
find out how he's doing that.
Good.
Um so so you have this fund. Do you recommend people start funds, or do you recommend them to stick with the JV model if they're doing residential mortgages?
When they're starting out, I would say start out with the JV, and you got to be a little bit careful of that because of the setup. Like, so that means, and I did this for years actually, but you do have to be careful because that means I cannot take money from Bob and Joe and put their funds together to go buy a note. They have to be
Mm,
completely separate. Everything has to stay completely isolated from each other. So
mm.
Bob's money goes and Bob buys a note for Bob, and Joe's money goes and buys a note for Joe, and they never commingle. So that's I guess the hitch. That's the thing you need to be very aware of.
Is that a requirement coming from the type of the fund, or is something or like an SEC thing? What is it?
Yeah, it's an SEC thing. So if you're ever commingling funds, that can be considered a security. And if you're not set up to be able to run a security, that's a huge no-no, and you can get fined and all kinds of trouble that you just don't want. So make sure you're
Mm,
doing it correctly.
I
And
see.
that's me as the
Okay.
non-lawyer. So make sure you talk to an actual
Yeah.
SEC
Yeah.
attorney.
Yeah. So you started with JV. At what point did you decide, all right, I this is the time I need to switch to a fund? Why not just stick with JV model?
Yeah, interesting. It was a few months into COVID, and it was a time where everything had just slowed down enough that it gave me a minute to just step back and have a look. And at the time, what part of the challenge was, we had grown, which was great, and we were doing really well, which was great. But it meant that we had, I think it was 23 different investors. So, like I said, we have to keep everything completely separate. So that meant we had to have 23 sets of accounting, and 23 separate reports every quarter. And my wife, bless her heart, she was the one that was preparing all these reports to go through all the process so that we could get them out to the investors. And it would take her easily 2 weeks solid of just preparing just for the reports. So I mean, everything else went to the side while she's preparing these reports, so it can get out to the investor. And so as when we had this minute to step back and look at it, and we're saying, man, I think we're doing it the hard way. I knew about funds. I was aware of different options that way, but I just kind of resisted it, partially because everything was working. We were doing what we were doing, and it's hard to slow down and have a look and say, is there anything we should be doing different? So that was really the catalyst. And in looking at it, there's all kinds of advantages to the fund. One of the things that really bothered me is because nobody's money could be commingled, that meant that investor one had $15,000 sitting on the sidelines that was too small to be used. Somebody else over here had 20, somebody else over here had 12, and all these different amounts added up to about $250,000 that was just sitting dead, not doing anything. And that was very frustrating for me. But because of the way we were set up, there's nothing we could do about it. So that was another catalyst. There's looking at, oftentimes an investor would come in and they would have maybe $200,000 that they wanted to place. So that means I could buy 4 or 5 notes, something like that. And when we're talking about non-performing specifically, it can go all kinds of different directions. So let's say we've got 5 notes. 3 of those work out great. One of them works out par and the other one lost money. Well, that's not fantastic as far as the track record. And so, one can wipe out 2 of those really great returns. And overall, it's not a really fantastic showing of what really should have been a whole lot better, but because of this one. And of course that didn't always happen, but I'm just saying, like, that was a risk that was in there. So again, when we can put everybody's money into a pool and buy, that was the other part of it, switching over to performing loans, there's far more safety in there. There's far more flexibility where we say, okay, so now we've got 50 loans in there and one of those goes bad or 2 of those go bad. Well, that's far easier to swallow because of the percentages. That's not going to affect everybody. That's going to put a small dent in everything else. And actually, I'm the one that feels that the investors get paid first. So there's just a lot more safety for the investor in there as well. So there's several of those things as we started to look at it. It just made way more sense.
Yeah. So clarifying question. So I thought the fund was structured in such a way that you could not commingle funds, right? Like with like
no, it's the opposite. So the fund allows you to commingle.
Okay, it's the JV partnerships that you cannot.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Let's talk about the acquisition side. So you have to acquire customers. Not only that, you have to acquire these properties, these investment properties.
Yeah.
Right. So let's start with the properties. So how are you acquiring these notes?
So more than anything I've ever experienced, this is a very relationship-driven business. On that, especially on the buy and sell side, if I want to buy notes, I need to find somebody who's selling notes. And if somebody wants to sell notes, they need to find somebody who's buying notes. There's no central database for this. There's no MLS. So it's very, very relationship driven. So for years, I would attend different conferences. And yes, there are note conferences out there. And then actually 4 years ago, one of the conferences had been a relatively newer startup, had been running 5 or 6 years, 7 years, something like that. They approached me and said, "Hey, we're stepping out of running this conference. Are you interested?" So that's the third leg of my business, is where now I run an annual conference all about note investing. And that has been exactly what I hoped it would be. When they approached me and said, "Hey, are you interested in taking this over?" My immediate answer was yes, followed by, "How much do you want for it?" Followed by the way, does it make any money? My number one concern is those relationships. And if I'm the one hosting and running this conference, that puts me in a position of credibility. That puts me in a position of notoriety. It helps me to be known among the community of note investors. And it has absolutely done that. And that's been fantastic. And I've been very, very happy with that. And then, yes, we paid for it. And then, yes, it actually does make some money too. So it's been a really good thing for us.
I see. Okay. Just like a podcast host, right? You get to meet a lot of guests and then you build relationships. So so this is like an annual thing?
Yeah, annual conference. I'll just give it a quick plug. It's called the Diversified Mortgage Expo. We run it in Nashville, Tennessee, and it's the 1st and 2nd of May. We do it the first weekend in May every year back in Nashville. And it's awesome. I love it.
So you're attracting both note buyers and note sellers, right?
Right. And note creators, people who are out buying properties and then selling them on terms and creating notes. People, and that's residential, that's business, that's land, that's any kind of notes that you can think of. That's who we're inviting and attracting to come, so that we can start to do some business together.
I see. So if someone is trying to do this, and obviously they're not a host of an annual conference,
Yeah.
how should they approach building relationships? Or don't
There
say come to
are
my conference.
Yeah, right. No, there's some really good groups on different social media. There's that you can start to just connect with other people who are in the business. Um, that would be, I think, square one, is just start to get involved, start to learn what you can. And again, it's not real estate, and so you really should learn it. And I don't teach it, so that's not a pitch, but there are different rules. We're talking about finance. We're not talking about real estate. The real estate just happens to be the collateral.
Hmm. Give us an example. What are the rules to be aware of?
Yeah. So number one, you are a lender when you're stepping into the role of receiving those payments. You have become a lender. So that means if somebody stops making payments and you're trying to contact them in order for them to make payments, in certain states and in certain situations, you can be considered a debt collector. And in some states and in some places and in some situations, you need a license to do that.
Hmm.
And there's too many nuances to go into, but that's just one. If you're in certain states, for example, Georgia or Kentucky or Oregon, just the fact that you own a note, whether it's performing or not, you are considered a debt collector. So, and they do require licenses. So things like that. If you're lending, making sure you're compliant. There are government guidelines, requirements, I should say, that you have to follow to make sure that you're lending properly and you're not taking advantage of your borrowers. So just being aware of that and knowing how to do that and how to do that safely and properly. So
Hmm.
and that's a couple of examples, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Hmm. So how do people get familiar with these rules?
There are several actually teachers, people that will show you the business and coach you along and do all those kinds of things. I don't do that. I applaud the people that do. Again, I'm looking for the flexibility. I don't want to be tied to my desk and explaining it.
Right. Okay. Um, let's talk about the acquisition on the. We talked about the deals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what about the customers, right? So investors. So how are you finding those?
That is that's a challenge. It's getting in front of, specifically for me, it's accredited investors. I've raised several $1,000,000 over the last 15 years. Uh, and then when we transitioned and opened up this fund, and now we can only market, or we can only take on accredited investors, that's a different category altogether. So I'll talk about both. Before, when I was just doing JV and accreditation didn't matter, my greatest success was going to any kind of gathering, ideally some kind of a conference or something, and then speaking. And I would, my first probably 3 years of speaking on stage was just talking about due diligence. And this is how I evaluate a note. And that was my whole presentation. I would do a 45-minute presentation just on due diligence, and I'd no pitch or anything. And then I'd walk off the stage, and later somebody'd say, "Hey, are you looking for money?" "Yeah, I am actually." And they'd give me the money and off we go. And it was like super simple, people that I'd never met before. And it was just from speaking from stage. So that's my
Mm,
biggest tip there. I still believe that that's one of the best ways to do that, is to get on the stage. Uh, the challenge that I'm finding is getting in front of the right audience. So because I'm now looking for these accredited investors, that's been a challenge for me. I'll be honest. Like, it's just getting in front of those people and
mm,
making sure that they understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And it's a different level, different crowd, and it's a much smaller crowd. And so that's been a
mm.
challenge.
And how are you thinking about it? Like how I'm sure you did find some of them, right? How did you
Yes.
find your existing accredited investors?
Um, let's see. So I met a few at, I got a booth at a dental conference, and
Hmm.
I just set up and had my information there about how I can get them. I offer an 8% annual return, and so we talk about an 8% return and why this is well secured and how it's secured and that kind of thing, and teaching them just a little bit about the note business so they can understand how it works and why it works. Um, One I did get actually off a podcast that I did. Um, One was from, it was actually a Zoom RIA meeting, and I was presenting at that. And same kind of thing. I'm just talking about what I do and how notes work, and it's generally unknown. I didn't know anything about it before I was introduced to it, but because it's relatively unknown, it takes a little bit of explanation. And as I talk about it and I talk about what I've done and how I do it and that kind of thing, then I invite people to come and join me if they'd like, and hopefully the phone rings and we'll see how it goes.
Hmm. Is 8% return attractive enough for like average investor?
For average investors, yes. For savvier investors, probably not.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm guessing so you're not looking for savvy investors then.
I'm looking for people who are more than anything else looking to diversify. Um,
Hmm.
8% is a good return. It's not a fantastic return. And I've fully acknowledged that. And in my own projects, if somebody approached me with 8%, I would probably say thanks, no thanks.
Hmm.
Um, but at the same time, this is a very well secured investment. And it's one where I think that you should take a portion of your investment dollars and put it towards something like this, where I call it your sleep at night money. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to, fret and say, oh, well, what about this one? Oh, I hope it's going okay. It's just going to be on automatic pilot, great for IRAs, where they can just build and work in the background. You don't have to do anything for it. So
Right.
that's my approach to it. That's kind of my pitch to it is do whatever, the multifamily, do the thing that's going to pay you the 15, 20, 25%. Those are great. They're also a lot riskier. So just be aware of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm. I mean, you could, I mean, if a counter argument could be made, um, like say it's a dentist, they have like whatever, 200, $300,000 to invest.
Mm-hmm.
They could argue that, oh, they could buy like a dividend fund or something safe in the stock market. Right. And they might get like 6-7%, or even like S&P 500, right? Even though it's not it does, you don't get a lot of dividends, but you still, it seems to be growing substantially, or at least at
Yeah.
a steady pace,
Yeah.
barring the black swan event. Do you get those objections? Why
I
should I
do.
not invest? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I have that where people say, look, I can get a bond for 5%.
Yeah.
And it's so you can. Last time I checked, 8 was better than 5, but sure, you can do that. But yeah, I'm really confident in what I've got because of how it's secured. You're We're buying a note that's attached to real property, and that
Hmm.
property, we're always buying with a minimum 25% equity spread. So we're buying, for easy numbers, we'll say the house value is $100,000. The loan balance is 90. The most I would pay is 75, just because
Hmm.
I want that equity spread in case of whatever. So in case they stop making payments or something, there's still a spread there where I can make sure that we're going to recoup our investment.
Right. Like
Mm-hmm.
say they trash the property and like the roof needs replacement. So
Yeah.
you have that equity spread to cover those costs, right?
Right. Right.
Okay. Does what's the tell me about the worst deal, like where
Oh,
something like
sure.
this happened.
Yeah. Okay. So again, let's go back several years, but it was the worst, where it was a non-performing loan in Michigan. And I mean, I definitely did some things wrong, but I was still new ish. But bought it. Eventually, we were able to get possession of the property. It was vacant. We were eventually able to get the property back. And then the city, in the meantime, there was a very long process, and there were some title issues that prevented us from doing the foreclosure, and it was a lot that took up a lot of time in between the time that I bought the note and the time we were able to foreclose. By the time we foreclosed and got possession of the property, in the meantime, the city had added different city ordinances, different liens on the property for not cutting the grass and for trash or whatever else that was up around the property, and then added interest onto those as well. On top of all of that, we get inside the house and it was absolutely destroyed. It was just an absolute mess inside, and people had been coming in and out of the property and graffiti and ripped out the copper, like everything you can think of. And it was just an absolute disaster. At the end of the day, it was going to cost me an additional, and luckily the numbers on this were not huge, but it was going to cost me an additional $10,000 just to sell the house. After we paid off all the liens and everything else, I was going to have to come to the table with $10,000 to get the deal done. And the loss, I think, matched that. So at the end of the day, we just said, you know what, forget it. And we said, city, if you want it, it's yours, and walked away from the deal. So I think that one we had purchased for something like $30,000. So it's a loss, not a huge, outrageous, crazy loss, but it was, it stung. That didn't feel so good.
So $30,000, this is a single family house. What was the market value of the property?
Market value of the property was probably $50,000. Like this is one we picked up in like 2012, something like that.
Where are these properties?
That one was like downtown Detroit. Like it was
I see.
Not fantastic.
So you're going after like not only just non-performing, but also like the worst areas.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
We learned. We didn't keep doing those low things over time.
So now that you switched to performing loans, are you staying away from areas with known issues?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, no, I'm looking for simplicity in my life. I'm looking just to make my life a whole lot easier. So I'm looking for nice houses, performing loans, stuff that's not going to give me headaches.
Tell me about working from Canada, right?
Yeah.
So you are located in Canada. All your properties, investment properties, and notes that you're buying are located in the United States. Do you have to pay more in taxes? What are the complications you have to deal with? Talk about
That's
those.
a great question. So I pay U.S. taxes, and then I file a U.S. tax return and pay U.S. taxes, and then I file and pay in Canada as well. The good news is, up until now at least, we'll see, but there's a tax treaty between the United States and Canada. So any taxes that I pay in the U.S. are a credit to what I pay in Canada. So I'm just paying the difference in Canada because, of course, I'm paying more. But so the extra cost for me is the cost to file in the U.S. So it's an extra few $1,000s to have that prepared and filed. But that whatever I'm paying in taxes is a credit to my Canadian amount.
One lingering question I had when we were talking about the types of investors. What's your ideal ICP, ideal customer profile that you want to have as an investor, accredited or non-accredited?
Yeah, my ideal is somebody who is really, more than anything, looking and planning for their retirement. So somebody who's at least 45 years old and older, and they're looking at using their IRA in particular. That's, again, the ideal. They're using their IRA to build up for that retirement that's coming in the next 15, 20 years. They can use their IRA funds and then actually reinvest. So rather than take that 8% payout, they can reinvest the profit so that it can compound.
So you are most of the investors do reinvest back in the fund, or do they prefer to take out as a distribution?
It's about half and half, actually. Yeah.
I'm guessing you prefer them reinvesting, right? So you can keep growing.
Yeah, ideally, for sure. For sure.
Hmm.
I don't have any problem paying out, but yeah, if they want to keep it in, that helps for sure.
Right. Okay. Let's transition to the constraints portion of the segment or portion of the podcast.
Yeah.
So we already discussed some of them. So you mentioned getting in front of accredited investors is
Mhm.
a constraint, right?
Right.
What else?
Um, I know for a lot of people, deal flow is a real constraint. For me, it's not, and I feel like we've kind of solved that one already. So I'll put it out there just as a general
Hmm.
constraint, but we've been able to go overcome that, which I'm really happy about. Um,
Mostly through the conference, right?
yeah, that's been a huge boost. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
yeah, that's been really good. Um, the pain point for me is getting those accredited investors.
Okay.
The
So
deal
that's the
flow,
biggest
not so
one.
much. Yeah, even
Yeah.
the managing, we've got that down. We've been doing this for
Right.
years. So yeah.
So so you recommended like going um like someone starting brand new,
Mm-hmm.
they want to get into the note business.
Mm-hmm.
Um you said like going on stages and try to be have some kind of authority where
Yeah.
people voluntarily give you money or want to give you money as opposed to you asking.
Yeah.
Now that'll be hard for someone just starting out, right? Because they
Yeah.
clearly don't have any authority. So what are the tips you can offer them?
Yeah. So when I was first getting started and I had learned about the business, I think for the very first couple of presentations, I didn't have anything. I had the concept. I had never done it myself, but I knew the concept. So way back starting when I started looking for money from people, it was probably 2011, 12, somewhere in there. And it was through Meetup, I believe.
Hmm.
And I created a Meetup group and I started doing meetings and I would just explain the concept. And so this is what we're doing. This is what we intend to do. This is how the business works. And this is what we're going out and looking at doing. That
Hmm.
was it. So like I really didn't have much authority at all. I just knew the
Hmm.
concept and I knew it could work.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law was one of my first investors. So, obviously we had some trust already built up there. But then it was very soon after I had strangers, people I'd never met before that started investing and small
Mm.
amounts. We were talking $25,000, $30,000 at first.
Mm. Yeah. So I'm seeing a pattern here. You like to be the host, right?
I like speaking. I do. I'm kind of an odd mix. I've thought about this. I'm fairly reclusive. I don't really like to be the center of attention, but
Mm.
I love speaking at the same time. So I'm not exactly sure what that says about me, but it's interesting.
What about are you a podcast host as well? Or do you
Yeah,
think it's too much work?
yeah. A colleague and I, we've been doing it for about 3 years, and we've been putting on a show twice a month for
Hmm.
several years now. It's been great.
Has that helped bring in more deals or more accredited investors?
Not as much as I would have thought. I kind of thought that's what would happen, and it hasn't been a focus, and so maybe that's why. Uh, but there, I mentioned that I have a fund. I mentioned that I'm out looking for investors, but that's about it. I don't ever say, so if you want to join me, or I don't pitch at all. Uh,
Hmm.
and I don't know if that's a direction I even want to go because the podcast itself is very just informational, educational. So
Hmm.
I'm not. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
that,
when you learn marketing, the
yeah,
first thing they teach you is to have CTAs, call to actions, in every marketing piece you do, or at least often enough.
yeah.
So I think maybe you should try add that, right?
I guess I should. All right. Tip number one.
Because without CTAs, right, people don't even know. I remember this. There was this YouTuber.
Hmm.
Um, she's been like producing like content for like years,
Yeah.
and she never had a CTA, never, no call to action, just provide value. She built up to like $130,000, 130,000 followers on YouTube, which is like, these are like not just like passive, these are like people coming back watching every video. And she never had a CTA. So she joined a mastermind,
Yeah.
and the first thing the guy told her was like, you need to stop producing videos and
Yeah.
just go back and all the existing videos at CTAs. If you want to,
Okay.
she was like trying to start coaching, like a coaching business.
Oh,
So
okay.
he made her put CTAs in all previous like 150 videos on YouTube, and then he made her do like a dedicated video as a channel trailer talking
Mhm.
about her coaching services, and she just took off. She's like,
Interesting.
people were like commenting, "Oh, I didn't even know you offered coaching,"
Yeah. Huh.
So I think that's biggest lesson for us as well. We used to do a lot of live streams. We used to do a lot of educational stuff for our land business.
Yeah.
And and we were like afraid. We were afraid to, that was the whole thing. We were like, well, if we start asking, oh, we have some kind of a service or we have a product for sale, people will, get pissed off. They will think we're
Mhm.
like, we're like sellouts,
Yeah.
and then no one cared. People who
Interesting.
who wanted to buy, they bought. Who didn't want to buy, they understood, well, it's a business.
Yeah.
So I think
Okay.
that might be a thing you might want to look into.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
um okay, so deal flow. If brand new investor, you're recommending, at least get to know the business, understand due diligence, and
Mhm.
just talk about it. And then some people will, voluntarily come to you and, ask for more information, or maybe if they want to manage or give you money for whatever reason, right?
And
So
I
I
like I
understand
said, I did
that.
it as a meetup. Meetups are really cheap, really easy to put on.
Right.
Uh, and then you can go to like local RIAs. They're always looking for speakers for their meetings, and you can just talk about what it is, things like that. It doesn't have to be, a big main stage, but it can start small.
Right. What about, so this is for deal flow meetups, or mostly for deal flow. And would you recommend the similar strategies for like starting with JV partners?
Yeah, I think so. That's what I did.
Okay.
Mhm.
Um, when you have you looked into more traditional media for or more traditional channels to get your word out, like doing like YouTube videos, or like Instagram shorts, or like SEO, or like on paid ads, stuff like that. Like I see a lot of offerings like this on my Facebook feed,
Mhm.
people offering like 9%, 10%, like big commercial property or like
Right.
apartment buildings and whatnot. Have you ever dabbled into those as well?
Barely, very, very little. I have yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. I've got an Instagram. I don't have Twitter, but even on those, I don't post very much, and I know that I could do more and probably should do more. And I actually with a marketing agency now, and they're helping me get the word out that way as well. So we're just barely starting on that. That's something that would just, like I say, scratch the surface.
Mm. What's the strategy for the marketing agency? What are they planning to do?
All kinds of online marketing, like all the socials, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Those guys.
Okay, so they're creating creative and content on your behalf?
They're teaching me how to do it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So exactly what we just discussed. You're just like learning, and you that's the plan, right? So because we talked about your goal, right? So you're trying to
Yeah.
get to 15K per month
Yeah.
on your personal portfolio side. So
Right.
that's like one of the things you're doing, right? You're getting educated on social media and how to promote. So more, it's essentially an awareness issue, right? Because
Right.
if everyone in the US knows who you are, what you do, you will have no problems either getting deals or getting accredited investors, correct?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Any lessons, like early lessons from the marketing agency have you learned that you're gonna be doing in the near future?
Yeah, one of the first lessons, I was very anti social media. I didn't care. I never looked at it or anything. But I understand that it's a very powerful tool. So one of the first lessons they talked about is like posting often.
Mm,
So, 3 times a week minimum. I'm like, really? That seems like so much to me. But they're like, no, minimum 3 times a week, 3 to 5 times a week kind of thing. I'm like, oh, okay. So I've started doing that. Email list, building up the email list. So we've got
mm,
actually on both my websites for the fund and for the conference. Now there's like the little pop up where you can get the free, you know, lesson book, whatever it is, of how to evaluate notes. I don't remember what they are even, but anyhow, uh, they and then that feeds into the email list and helps build that up. And same thing with the emails. They're saying minimum once a week. I'm like, man, that seems like a ton to me, but okay, that's okay. And then over all of that is like, man, how do I even come up with things to talk about? And
mm,
so they had me do this entire, profile thing into an AI chatbot thing, and having it come up with at the very least the content ideas. I don't actually have, and I'm probably doing it the hard way, I'm sure, but I don't have um, the AI write out my posts or my emails. I actually do that myself, and then I'll sit down for like an afternoon and I'll pound out that for the next month or something like that, and then just
mm.
schedule them so that they go out on automatic basis.
Yeah. Some ideas from what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So we go live daily. So the live
Oh
helps
wow, okay,
you. Yeah, so the live helps you like cut it into like short form, right?
okay,
I mean, so you want to do long form content and then you use the long form content to like chop it into like short form. And then
okay,
the beauty of short form is that you literally don't have to change anything. Once you have the short form pieces, you can redeploy them or repurpose them in on LinkedIn, on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube Shorts,
mm-hmm.
right? And so on and so forth. So like you literally just drag and drop in all the social medias.
That's
So
interesting.
short
As
form
video,
is, huh?
as video, or as written
As
post?
video.
Yeah,
Because you literally, because in never in history you have ever been able to just drop, right? Because it's
yeah,
always native to the platform. Like, you had to, like, when you do long form videos, you had to like kind of like, oh, subscribe to my channel. You can't subscribe on Facebook, you can
right,
only subscribe on YouTube, right? But short form is so short and you're just giving value. There is no like CTAs can be part of the uh,
yeah.
description, or in the comment. So it's much easier for the short form to travel across social media channels.
Oh,
And
that's
you're
interesting.
doing these podcasts, right? So
Mm-hmm.
literally an hour worth of podcast, you could cut out like 10 valuable things you said and you
Mm-hmm.
just repurpose them.
Yeah,
Um,
we just started doing that. So for the podcast, we started doing that a couple of months ago, and then for myself, I've just been doing these little short videos, and I've been really surprised at how much more like hits they're getting, more views. Um, so that's been interesting, and
mm,
to me it makes sense. I'm actually probably more likely to watch a 30-second video than I am to read for 30 seconds
yeah.
on a post.
Yeah. So here's one thing I usually bring up. It's an important concept I discuss in my book as well, The Land Business. I just published it, so it's
Mm-hmm.
top of mind for me. So there are like four different types of offers that pretty much every big business uses. And as a small business owner, or like a medium sized business owner, you want to kind of like try to deploy or all four types of offers. So the four types are attraction offer, upsell offer, downsell offer, and continuity offer. So just a quick example, say we run a coffee shop, we can have an attraction offer, be like, oh, come between 12 and 2 p.m. and get like 20% off everything in the store because it's a slow time. We want more people to come in who otherwise wouldn't.
Okay.
Upsell offer would be, oh, someone buys like small cappuccino. We try to be like, well, you should buy a large, we have a special going on, and
Okay.
we get a free croissant with it, right? So we're trying to upsell them into something.
Mhm.
Downsell would be, whoa, buy these Costa Rica, just these special coffee beans just came from Costa Rica. It's like $40, take home, good reviews. And they say no, and then we try to sell them something smaller. So that will be an example of a downsell offer. And then continuity offer is more like a membership or a subscription where they pay something monthly, like be part of our coffee club and you get all these benefits,
Okay.
right? So in the land business, right, we were unaware of these four types, and we were just like, people will come buy land, we'll sell them land, just
Sure.
one offer, right? But
Yeah.
when we learned all these four types, we're like, so how do we, I mean, we didn't even know what an upsell offer was, and now we do. So we started incorporating. So we're like, someone will come in, we'll have some kind of an attraction offer. We're like, well, for limited time, we're doing like $500 down instead of like 20% down, right? Just to
Okay.
have more traffic come in. And then we'll upsell them and try to upsell them, oh, you bought this, you should buy the bigger parcel, right? If
Mhm.
they say no, we're like, well, you should buy a smaller parcel. And then continuity, we will try to get them in the membership, where
Mhm.
we'll be like, well, if you become part of the Freedom Land Club, you get concierge service. We'll help you with your perk test. We'll help you with your survey. We'll help you uh, get access get access to local contractors, mobile home developers, and all those things, right? So we're trying to leverage all four offer types, and we saw our revenue go up because more people will take those offers. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking, in your business model, right now it's set up as a continuity offer, right?
Mhm.
Like, you invest with me, and then you get like these monthly or like these quarterly dividends
Yeah.
kickback,
Yeah.
right? So I'm thinking, and then you're using lead magnet. You did mention the lead magnet, where someone comes to the website, you'll be like, well, here, take this free PDF. So
Mhm.
that's kind of like acting as an attraction offer. You're getting more leads in the door. So
Yeah.
you're attracting them, and then hopefully you do email sequences, lead nurture, so
Yeah.
they eventually become a customer, either bring in deals or invest in your fund.
Mhm.
um, I'm thinking about upsells and downsells. Can you think of ideas that can be implemented in your business model?
That's interesting.
Because I'm thinking, like, I'm just like thinking out loud now.
Yeah.
Like, someone says, "Oh, I want to invest 50K," and we make some kind of an offer to have them increase that amount to maybe 75K, right? Can
Yeah,
we
that
incentivize that?
that is something that we have talked about actually, but haven't done anything about it yet. We talked about that. Like, it's 8%, but could we do 9% if you invest more than X amount,
Hmm.
more than
Yeah,
whatever,
I like
so
that.
pick a dollar? We absolutely could. So that is definitely something that
Yeah.
we haven't run all the numbers on that yet, but I know that that's absolutely a possibility. So that's something that we're considering at least.
Yeah. And not even 9%, just 8.5%. And then
Yeah.
if you invest 100K, then we do 9,
Right.
kind of
Right.
thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to add something to the
Yeah.
strategy session where you can like take back and think about. Um,
Yeah.
so those are the things I came to my mind, because it takes so much effort, right, just to get the customer in the door,
Yeah.
and we want to like squeeze all the juice out of what we put in the marketing dollars. Um, the one lingering question on the interest rates. So you
Mhm.
mentioned 8%. Is that usually the standard, or do you ever like go up to like 11 or 12% as well?
No, it is the standard because, and it's an interesting one, and we wrestled with it quite a bit because before, when we were doing non-performing, the returns were bigger typically, but far more unpredictable. And
Hmm.
so I could say we're going to get you whatever 15, 20, 25, pick a number, but I could say that and we could probably even meet that most of the time. However, because we've switched over now to performing loans, it's a set amount. So whoever's making those payments in the house, their interest rate is 9%. I bought it at a discount, so the return that I'm getting is 12%, and I'm paying my investor 8.
Hmm.
But because it's a static number every month, there's no room for any kind of a bump later on.
You're cutting into your own margins.
Yeah.
Mm.
There is no, we call it, there's no pot of gold at the end. If we sell, in fact, here's the secret sauce, not so secret, but so I'm typically buying longer term notes. So 30-year loans. I had a 30-year loan, and you can see this on your own mortgage. The first 5 years, you're mostly paying interest.
Right.
So again, just for easy numbers, if the starting balance is 100,000, after 3 years, the balance is probably something like 99.5, and depending on your rate and blah blah blah. But just that's the idea. So what I need to do as the fund manager is I track all of these different loans and say, okay, so if I bought for, call it $75,000, at what point does the principal balance drop to where I can still resell it for 75,000 and not for 74? So if the balance has gone from 100,000 to 99.5, I can still resell that for 75 and recover every dollar. So we've collected that payments for those 3 years, and then we've got that capital back, and I can go roll it over into something else. And that's one of my major tasks in running, because it's a fund, and I always have to be cognizant of, this is not my money, this is investor cash. So that's the way that we protect their capital, so it doesn't diminish over time.
So when you say sell, you're talking about selling the note, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then you're maintaining the buy, like people relationship with people who like to buy notes as well.
Right. Yeah.
And we didn't talk about it at all.
No, that's true. That's true.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So what and I'm guessing it's the same strategy, like going to these events and hosting these events.
All the relationships. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I completely missed that you're also selling notes. Because at first I thought that you were just like holding on to them because you're getting this passive income. But then
that's the difference. That's the difference. When I'm running it as the fund, as the business, I'm always going to have to be reselling at some point and then rebuying and reselling. For myself, if it goes for 30 years, great. I don't have to think about it for 30 years. If there's a situation like I mentioned where he's got great credit and he could refinance and pay me out early, fantastic. Then I can get paid out early, and I'm not taking a discount at that point. I'm recouping the full balance of the loan. So that's my best case scenario as far as income. But then I've got this new problem where I've got this lump sum of cash and I have to go back out and redeploy it, which is fine. But that's the difference. So for myself, long-term is great. For the fund, long-term is great, but I always have to be buying and selling.
You can get in touch with the current owner of the house, right? Like can you like, I'm thinking in terms of like, can you like try to convince them to do a refinance so you can have that liquidity event?
Yeah, I've done that several times. So I'll look at it, and one of the first things I'll do is look at their credit, because that's typically where they're going to fall down. Is they go to the bank and, well, you've only got a 600 credit score, so no go. So we'll look at the credit score first, and then if looks like it's something that would be viable, then I'll approach them and say, look, you're paying this much with me. Bank's offering this right now. This is how much money you can save over time. You can pay off your mortgage that much faster. You can lower your monthly payment if you want to do that, and just present it to them that way and say, look, this is in your best interest. And frankly, it's in my best interest as well if you go and refinance.
I'm thinking in terms of a revenue generating opportunity. Like, can you set up relationships with like banks in the United States where you say, well, I have this exclusive access to these people who may need refinancing. They have refinancing needs coming up in the next few years. Can you set up like some kind of a referral arrangement or some kind of a kickback that you get, and then you keep using the same bank over and over again?
Possibly. Oftentimes that's going to be a smaller bank.
Right. Community bank. Yeah.
And then the challenge is they're not in every state, and we buy all over the place. So yes, to a point. We've got whatever this smaller credit union or community bank that's in this one state but not in that state, or maybe they're in 2 or 3 states. Great. But it's possible. But yeah, it's got its own set of things that need to
Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of work, because, like, in fact, we did this in our business, where someone buys land, especially in one particular county in Florida, where
Mhm.
mobile homes are really popular.
Mhm.
People buy land and they want to put mobile homes.
Yeah.
Um, so one potential buyer, he said, "Well, do you know any mobile home, like, manufacturers or dealers in the area?" And we're like, "Not really, we just sell land." And
Yeah.
then we're like thinking, "Wait, why don't we reach out to some of the mobile home dealers and see if they can give us some kickback so we can refer to
Sure.
them?"
Yeah.
Right? So that's where I got this idea, and I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
you should do the same thing with the lenders, because I'm sure a lot of the community banks and smaller banks, they keep on losing all this revenue to larger banks because they have
Sure.
more marketing dollars behind them."
Yeah.
um, I think, yeah,
That's
something to
interesting.
look into.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've ever thought about it going directly to the banks, but what I have done in the past is I've worked with a credit repair company.
Hmm.
So same thing. I'll have people come in and say, okay, well, your credit's only at 600. If you were able to get it up to 680, you can go back. And then I say, you've got your choice of banks. Go to whichever bank you currently deal with, or if you want to deal with a different one, I'm going to get you to the point where you can go talk to a bank. But I hadn't actually thought about it in getting directly with the banks. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But this credit repair company, you got some kickbacks?
Yeah, yeah. They treated it like a referral fee, and it was $50. But sure, I'll take
Hmm.
$50 for anybody that we refer and they start up with their program.
Hmm. Oh, yeah, I'm guessing refinance, you have a much larger kickback
Um,
that you can expect,
yeah,
right?
I'm much more interested in that. Yeah,
um, I think we covered pretty much everything. There was one question that I wrote down that I didn't get to ask you, so we'll end on that.
sure.
Have you dealt with any legal issues with regards to selling notes, buying notes, not related to the assets, but with the business model itself of buying and selling notes?
Yeah, interestingly enough, no. And that's I think one of the to me it's one of the most fascinating things because we're talking about buying and selling these loans. Um, and it's fascinating. I don't have to have a license for it. I don't have to have any kind of designation, like nothing. Here I am coming in with at the beginning with my Canadian corporation, and my Canadian corporation is buying a loan down in Alabama or in Texas or wherever. And
Yeah,
okay, no big deal. And then you go and record that assignment of mortgage at the county, and it's done, and that's it. And now I own the loan,
right.
and payments are coming to me. So it's a
Yeah,
fascinating business. It's very
yeah.
wild, wild west. Very much relationships. Just again to the point, I'll meet somebody who's selling a loan and say, okay, we'll come to terms. I'll go through, do my due diligence, and we'll say, okay, we agree on a price. And then because we're trading money for the loan, at no point are we um, converting title. The one on
Hmm.
title is the homeowner, and they stay on title. So it's
Right.
not done through a title company. And the vast majority of all these deals is I send you money, I'll just wire you X amount, and you're going to send me the paperwork, and that's it.
Hmm.
So again,
Yeah.
very relationship driven because you have to trust each other.
Right. I mean, another reason why you haven't dealt with legal issues is because you're doing everything by the book, right?
Yeah,
If
that's true. Yeah,
Right, so you'll only get into trouble if you're doing
yeah.
something shady, right?
Don't do anything dumb.
Yeah. Um, if so, when in our business, we sell, like, a lot of the owner finance deals are lower value, like maybe like less
Mhm.
than 20K.
Mhm.
So we record the deed after they pay it off, right? Because
Yeah,
it just doesn't financially make sense to go through the process of
yeah,
recording and all that. And usually the loan terms are much smaller as well, much
yeah.
shorter as well. You wouldn't, like, buy those notes, right? Where
I do actually.
you do?
So yeah, We use the umbrella term contract for deed, and different states have different names for it. They'll call it a land contract or agreement for deed or bond for deed. The umbrella term in our industry is contract for deed. And it's exactly that. Title stays in the lender's name until all the payments are done, and then you transfer that title over to their name.
Yeah.
That's how I got started when I was first creating loans back in 2009, and it was in Ohio. And in Ohio, they call it a land contract. So we were selling these houses and creating these land contracts. And then I was figuring out, so how do I cash out of this? Like I can hang on to this and that's fine, but how do I cash out? And that's where I was doing some internet research, found a guy that says, I'll buy your note. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And so that's how I stumbled into it. And that was my very beginnings. So yeah, I'll buy deeds of trust, mortgages, contracts for deed. I've even bought lease option contracts because to me, that's the same as a first lien. I'm the first one in order of priority when it comes to payment.
So, but then you're going on title, right?
In that case, yeah.
Okay. And then you're fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's advantages and disadvantages to that, but
right. Well, the disadvantage would be that if there's like a court enforcement or anything, then you're liable.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think we pretty much covered everything. And then you mentioned, so you learned this. Did you actually buy a course or did you just learn from experience?
I did. I went to like a 3-day course. And then it was a lot of just learning on the job and trial and error and getting it right.
So are there are there people actually actively teaching this where you like a trusted name that you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got some really great friends, colleagues, people that teach this. There a few of them out there, and yeah, I'm happy to share information if anyone's interested.
Okay. All right, Nathan, what's the best place for people to reach out if they want to learn more about you? Maybe, give you some deals, or are they accredited investors who want to invest with you? Tell us the best place.
Best place is my website, earnestinvesting.com. And that's EARNEST. So earnestinvesting.com, there's information there about the fund, about how notes work a little bit more. And then there's a link over there to the conference if people are interested in looking at that as well.
All right. Nathan, this was great. I think we provided a ton of value.
Very interesting. Yeah, this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.